Hi, my name's Andy Baxter and I'm going to show you around my showroom with the vintage basses I have in stock. If you want to pan around here, I've got a random acoustic, which is obviously not a bass, an Ibanez musician, and then a ton of Music Man basses, all pre-Ernie Ball. Down here we've got the pre-Ernie Ball Stingrays and a couple of Sabres up the top. This, I believe, is a 78 pre-Ernie Ball Music Man Stingray, and much higher output on these. It's an active bass, obviously, so I've turned down a little bit. Straight away you can hear the tone of it. Bit trebly for me, so I'll take some treble off. That's better. You can hear the ping and the brightness of the bass. It's just got a particular sound, the Music Man Stingray, which I love on certain types of songs. Personally, again, for me, I play rock music generally, rock and roll. Doesn't always fit into that context, although the obvious thing that goes against that rule is the guy from AC/DC. Always played one of these with a pick. Get a pretty low tone out of it too. But there you go, that's a pre-Ernie Ball Music Man Stingray. In the corner we've got a pretty rare Hofner from '63, and then coming around this side we've got a EBO, an EB3 Gibson. Up the top a fretless Ripper, which is a bit of an oddity. This is probably one of my favourite basses in the showroom, actually, which is a '76 Bicentennial Thunderbird without a break in the headstock, which is also a rarity. Although the circuitry's been slightly changed, we've got an extra overall volume pot. I've got a load of Gibsons behind me. One of them is, my personal favourite is this Gibson Thunderbird, as I showed you earlier, '76, and this has got really old strings on it, and if you play it with a pick, you get a really cool sound. And pretty hot pickups in there. Huge long scale neck, great shape. It looks cool. Personally find it hard to play because of the size of the bass, but if you want to go for style, then this is certainly a rock and roll bass. And I found on this bass you can get a really cool muted tone if you've used your hand, and it gives you a bit of a Macca feel, which is, I love the sound Macca got. I mean, his was either a Hofner or a Rickenbacker. But nevertheless, this is great sounding bass. That's a great one. 3 RD Artist basses. And I had every single colour recently, which was nice. Black, Vintage Sunburst, the Antique Burst, and Natural. And then coming around this side, we've got, oh, I missed one out. What's this down here? This is quite a famous bass. Some bloke left it here about 10 minutes ago. It's a Fender from what looks like the sort of late 60s, early 70s, I guess. 72, I just heard, I was told. This is actually Norman Watroy's rhythm stick bass, and as you can see, it's been played quite a bit. We'll have a look at that in more detail.
This is what I call Paddy. It was bought for me back in '72, brand new, and my wife bought it for me. I was a broke musician, and it played on all the early Blockhead records, Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll, Rhythm Stick included. Right up until '85 when I bought my '62 Jazz. So yeah, this is something. It almost plays itself. It really does. It's so beautiful. And I've left the same strings on it. I had the Jameson book, and it said he never changed his strings. So I didn't change them for 5-6 years, and I love it. It just sounds fat, warm, and it's got a lovely feel to it. It's not quite like a jazz, and it's not a precision either. It's a maple neck precision. This is a 72, and I don't know, for some reason it's a thinner neck than a precision. And that's what appealed to me, because I used to play a jazz, and this one just felt like a jazz neck, but not quite, but it still had the chunkiness of a precision neck. And I just fell in love with it. And it was actually the Average White Band's guitarist, Onnie McIntyre, who we shared a flat together. And he knew I was looking for a bass, and we lived in Fulham. He came running in one morning and he said, "I've just seen this maple neck precision in a little shop on Fulham Palace Road called TW Music." And he said, "It's £160. And I had £60. And I was like, ah. So my wife gave me the £100 and said, "Go and buy it." And we went and bought it, and wow, I fell in love with it as soon as I saw it and played it. And now, like I say, I've had it since then, and it played on all the records, and most bass players that play it, they just love it. They love it. It almost plays itself.
Just tons of warmth and bottom end, mainly because you've got a precision bass pickup stuck in with a jazz bass. I mean, it's originally a precision bass, and it's even got probably what you see, it looks like the original dust on it. And yeah, it's a real timepiece. This it's the amount it's gone tobacco burst because of the amount Norman smokes and the amount of bars it's been in. So that's also quite an orangey red going on in the middle. So he's certainly customized this bass himself, and it's a joy to play. Coming around here, we've got a couple of Rickenbackers up the top, and another Watt-Roy bass. Now this one is up for sale here. The rhythm stick isn't, but this one is. This one is a Shoreline Gold 62. Again, we've got a lot of Normans playing on that one.
I bought this in '85, I think it was '85, '86, something like that. It was, I was looking for an old Fender, 62 Jazz, all original. And I changed the bridge. I put a Badass on it for a while, but I've actually put the original bridge back on because it's for sale and it's all stock except one of the pots. But it's called a Blockhead bass because it was what I used from '85 onwards with the Blockheads and everyone, and also on recordings as well from that date onwards. So. Like Andy said, the pickups on this is a bit, they're hotter and it's got a nice tone. Anyhow, and I fell in love with this when I bought it, and it's my baby. It's the Blockhead bass. It's just beautiful.
short scale Music Master. And then a whole row of Fenders basically here, which is the largest stock of Fender basses of vintage variety in certainly the UK. This is one of the rarest basses I've ever seen. Custom colour 64 gold sparkle. That bass has already been sold. Up the top, a couple of pre-CBS Fenders. This one's been refinished in Fiesta Red. Down here, a couple of pre-CBS P basses. This one here is actually mine. Rosewood board, Olympic white, refinished by a good friend of mine, Joseph K, who does a lot of the work for me, but this one's on my bass. And this one, I play live. I used to use this, I used to use a maple neck bass, but recently I've come around to using the rosewood board. I'll play that for you in a bit. It's one of the things about vintage basses I like is that they're worn in. This is a 69 body, pickups and neck. I've had it refinished. It's a random plate on there. I'm not sure what bass that came from. It's a jazz plate, but I'm not sure if it's original. Pickups are original, pots aren't, but that doesn't really matter to me because it's for my personal use. And I put a badass bridge on it, and that just gives me much better intonation and sustain on the bass. And I've recently, as I said, gone to rosewood necks rather than maple necks, just for a little bit more warmth in the sound. And this one is quite warm sounding. That's that. Well, that's that one. And that, at the moment, the strings are a little bit dead, and I will be changing them fairly soon, but they're just about the end of their life. I kind of like them, as I was just talking to Norman about, I like the bass to be worn in a little bit, as I think most bass players do. I don't go, even though John Entwistle's probably my ultimate hero, who had it on new strings after a sound check, that's a little bit over the top for me. I don't want that twang and that brightness so much. So I just try and wear the strings in a little bit before I play. But I just love the feel of vintage basses. I personally think you can notice the difference in the sound when a pickup was warmed slightly, when the magnets have aged, the neck's had its own wear done to it by previous players, and then your own wear starts to take hold, and then you just get really used to the necks. But that happens with any instrument, I suppose. But that's that one. That's my 69 jazz bass. And then to finish off right in the corner, this is a 62 Reissue jazz bass, and that's from 1982 that was made, which is when the famous guitars came out still out of the Fullerton factory, using a lot of the same tools as used in the pre-CBS period. And over here we've got some of the amps. I sell these amps. These are Ampeg flip-top Portaflex amps. This is an early 70s version. I mainly do the 60s ones, which are in blue Tolex, which if you spin back round, you'll see one of the cabs here without the head, unfortunately, because it's being serviced. And finally, in the corner, we've got my spare neck, which is a 74 with black blocks, and I put the vintage tuners on it. That's going to be going on a bass that, again, my mate Joseph K is building for me. With a little homage to John Entwistle, it's the Fender Bird. I'm having a Fender Bird built with slightly different pickups, but I will be posting that onto my website when it's finished. But finally, in 1960, Ampeg brought out the B15. Well, actually, this is an A15. It was exactly the same as a B15, but it was marketed as an A15 for people playing accordion. But essentially, it was the same thing as the B15 in the beginning. There was an A15 and a B15 brought out at the same time, same amp. It was soon changed to just the B15, and the A was dropped completely. But that's the first ever version, slightly different head, and it's got the random flare Tolex on it. So that's a quick look around my showroom, and you can see all the gear on www.andybaxterbass.com. So please take a look and give me a shout. Thanks.